Okay, SnowTrax, SuperTrax YouTubers, here we are again with another walk around. This time I think it's going to be our final walk around, at least in order of production, of a 2019 model. But this is important because I haven't done a Yamaha walk around, and we just got this press unit late in the year. It's a 2019 SRX, as you can tell. And I want to talk to you, first of all, broad strokes about kind of the positioning of this vehicle in the marketplace and what it means. If you think about mountain-specific snowmobiles, you don't have any issues with that. You understand they're RMKs, they're Summits, they're whatever, and we all accept that. This is a purpose-built snowmobile for honing lakes, for being the king of the lakes, for being the guy at the radar run who gets the trophy every week. This is a purpose-built snowmobile. Therefore, there are some qualifiers and some compromises demanded by it. Surprisingly few, but still I want to speak to that. So the one issue I want to speak to before we get into the technical details and the nuts and bolts is this. No one who buys this snowmobile with a 1" by 137 15 wide track should ever consider taking it out and riding it seriously on a lake or at high speeds or even on trails. There just simply is not enough traction available with this design track. The track is purpose-built to go wide open at high speed, but it begs for stud or traction products to be installed. And I can tell you from my personal experience, I've put over 600 kilometers on this myself in the last 3 days. And my personal feeling is I feel really good about this snowmobile, but it doesn't have studs, and so you can't appreciate the power that the engine has because it will not accelerate hard because all it does is spin. You can't appreciate the handling of the snowmobile to the degree you should be able to because it steps out in the back end. It is the tail happiest snowmobile I have ridden in probably 20 years. This thing is so powerful, it needs traction. So having said that, if you're going to spend the kind of jing this thing demands and you want to be the king of the lake, don't leave your dealership until you get the thing fully studded. At least a 232 on the middle belt would be the absolute minimum that you need for traction on this unit to make it really perform. Just anecdotally, I was able to actually perceive and clock with the speedometer that this would not hook up solid on snow until past 145 kilometers. That's 85 miles an hour in the US. So you've got a tremendous amount of torque and a huge amount of horsepower driving down into the ground with this, and even with a 137. So there's my caveat, there's my notice to all of you, studs. It's got to have traction products for it to realize its full potential. So what is its full potential? Well, here's some interesting things. This is a 2019. The 2020s are out. I don't believe we have a walk around yet, but the front end has been changed pretty dramatically on all of Yamaha's sleds in this chassis, which is by Arctic. The new geometry is remarkable. The difference didn't take me in Yellowstone, didn't take me 4 corners out of the pits before I realized that something was really at play. What they've done is they've raised the front a lower ball joint. The distance between it and the ski saddle bolt is 1.5 inches higher. Then they've repositioned the skid in the tunnel in a different orientation to take advantage of that. The net effect is, without getting into a whole lot of stuff, it's changed the roll center of the front of the sled, which is what dictates how a vehicle corners and handles a snowmobile. And they've changed it quite dramatically, and it works. It's a really great improvement, and I think it's going to make the 2020s very attractive. So the next thing we want to talk about before we get to the engine is IQS. Obviously the SRX is a premium model. It comes with IQS, and it really works great on this sled because getting back to its purpose-built nature, this sled is lowered not by using shorter shocks but by using less preload on the springs. So the sled has as much full travel from full extension to full compression, but it rides into its travel quite a bit more profoundly than any other model in Yamaha's lineup based on this chassis. So what that means is the vehicle is cutting a smaller hole in the air, less air going underneath, more air going over top, more downforce, more control, more top speed hopefully, and I think they achieved their goal in terms of top speed. We've recorded multiple people, like this thing does 100 miles an hour, 160 clicks, so fast it'll make your eyes water. And the first time I gave it a good pull out on the lake here, I was shocked when I looked down and I was already past 100 miles an hour, 160K. It's like a lightning bolt in terms of acceleration. The good news is with IQS, it actually rides really good. And the fact that half of the suspension travel is used up in sag or dropout, whichever way you want to qualify it, hasn't affected the way it rides. And it does handle, this being the original geometry, this being a 2019, it does handle very well. The 2020s handle exceptionally well. Maybe one qualifier, let's go back to IQS. When you're running it, I tend to run it in soft all the time, unless you're looking at moguled up trails, then go to medium. If you want to go to hard, yeah, I'm not sure that you're going to need that very often, but soft and medium are your two zones, and I'm going to show you when we do a run up of the motor how you select that and how that works with the switch gear. Okay, so this is the 998 turbocharged triple engine. It produces 180 horsepower, but I got to tell you, everybody just laughs at that. Apparently, all of the denizens of horsepower, all of the gurus who have dynos and who like to announce and proclaim horsepower, are all saying that 200 horsepower is really where this motor's at. Whatever, it's 180 horsepower on a really bad day. When you ride this thing at altitude like we were riding the new ones in Yellowstone a week and a half ago, when you ride them at 6,600 feet, turbos are stupid, okay? They don't know where they are. They have no clue where they sit in altitude because they just boost to sea level. And so it's kind of a cool phenomenon because the only vehicles in Yellowstone that really perform and perform like they do at home are the turbocharged models, this being the biggest of the big. So 180 horsepower into the hood, bulletproof, drop-dead, reliable motor. Yamaha will forget more about four-stroke turbocharged motors than pretty much everybody else in the engine manufacturing business will know. These guys are smart. This motor is durable. I don't know what you could do to hurt this motor. You could kick it out of an airplane at 30,000 feet and it'd probably land on its skis and start and take off. This is a reliable engine. One of the things that's really improved for Yamaha is the clutching. This has got the new overdrive primary made by Yamaha proprietary and the roller cam secondary. Yamaha likes to say we want our own DNA in this vehicle because obviously it is assembled by Arctic Cat. So one of the real definers of that comment is the clutching system is definitely not the same as Arctic's Thundercat, and of course the skis, which I think they probably wish they didn't have to talk about because these skis are among the most profound weaknesses of this snowmobile. Unless you're riding on perfect conditions, they ball up and they understeer like crazy under most conditions. They're heavy to steer on hard pack, and I think that probably it's safe to say that Yamaha isn't happy with them either. You can get by with them, you can ride with them. They do have some endearing qualities in that you can mix up the carbides and get a different combination, but because they're a tunnel ski without any relief in the tunnel, they ball up with snow when you're on really twisty trails and tend to push and understeer quite a bit. So that's the one negative that we have on the SRX. Overall, it's a 137, so it's a longer tunnel, and it's a 1-inch track, and this whole setup at the back here is very transparent. You don't know this thing's a 137 when you're driving it. In fact, it feels like a 121 because there's so much motor at play. Once again, we want to qualify that. If it's studded, it's a different animal altogether. But this sled actually generates a nice ride, a nice quality ride on trails, and ergonomically it's very comfortable. I found the ergonomics of it to be very mainstream and certainly not lacking in any way that my body was interacting with the body work itself. The key panels here are kind of cut on an angle, so there's lots of room to crowd the handlebars in a corner and get right up on it and weight the skis. It has a heated seat, which I'm not sure I get that, but whatever. It's an expensive snowmobile, so you might as well take everything you can get, right? It has this bag on the back, which is sweet. And pay attention, everybody else in the snowmobile business who's not doing this, which isn't everybody. This is a really great storage bag, and I think we've been dealing with too little storage for too long. This is a great thing to have on the back, and Yamaha includes it with the vehicle. It looks sharp, it's functional, and you can carry like, you know, you can carry 3 cans of bait in there if you're a nice fisherman. You probably wouldn't do that, it would smell up the trunk. But you can carry a lot of stuff in there, at least a cache of pemmican and a handful of Skittles. So that's a good deal. We'll go around the other side. Devin is doing a great job of following me around. I want to give you the run-up. When I give you the run-up, I'm going to show you the display, how you select IQS. So Devin, this is how you select it, and then you toggle it for high and low. So let's fire it up. It tells you the Yamaha, in case you're in a parking spot someplace, you put your keys in the wrong sled, you'll know that you're stealing someone else's snowmobile. That's handy. Okay, here we go. So IQS suspension active. Now we want to bring it up so we can toggle it. So we push that in, and then we go this way. Medium, firm. Medium, soft, go back to the display. Let's give it a flip. It's a 120-degree firing motor. So 120 times 3 is 360. It fires 3 times every rotation of the crank. It's got a very pleasing auditory cadence. It's not like an even firing twin or other combinations of 270-90 and those kind of things. It's a nice, even, smooth sound, very appealing to the ear, and a little bit threatening too. Kind of announces its arrival. It's a nice exhaust note. In the rear, you've got the IQS shock on the rear arm, not on the front arm. And the IQS shock adjusts in tandem when you run the toggle, so you get that working for you front and back. Something I want to mention too as well, in case we don't get a 2020 walk around in, is that for 2020 our Yamaha has changed the way the vehicle starts and stops. So there's now a button here, your forward reverse button, which starts the vehicle. Now it's a little bit confusing to explain, but let me explain it. There's now a tether cord on the panel here. There's still a key, but you don't start from the key like you do now, and there's still obviously a kill switch. So the kill switch must be up, the tether must be on, the key must be on, and you can button start it, which is sort of a skidoo thing right now. So I like it. I just think that they should probably get rid of the ignition key and just go with the tether. It looks like an electronic tether that we've used, and it's a slick idea. So button start is way better than trying to reach over the handlebars or dig around in snow and that kind of stuff. It's very good. It's a very good system, and guys who are early ordering 2020s will like that. Also, the brake. This brake is the best drive axle brake in the business right now. Great feel for a drive axle brake. You got to remember, a jack shaft brake, the jack shaft is spinning at least twice as fast as the drive axle under most circumstances. So there's way better modulation in a Polaris jack shaft brake than there is in these drive axle brakes. They've done a good job with this. They've changed the pads and the rotor, and it's got some feel, which we really lost with drive axle brakes. I'm not a fan of drive axle brakes from that standpoint. I realize the big argument is, what if the chain breaks? You've got no brakes. Well, if the chain breaks, you got bigger problems anyway, because it's probably going to pile and lock up the track at 100 miles an hour. And I've enjoyed that experience once. Had the track fly off a Thundercat at 100 miles an hour on Kevlar Lake. And so those issues of control can actually be a life-changing experience. So the long and the short of it is, it's a drive axle brake, and it's kind of pushing the boundaries, and it works way better than other drive axle brakes in the business right now. Hats off to Yamaha for speccing that out and making that work as well as it does. Okay, so that's the 2019 SRX 137 by 1 inch lug, and that's my wrap up of it. And I appreciate all your feedback on these walk-arounds, and hope you have a great day. And go and check out the 2020 with the new ARCS front end on it at your dealer when they arrive. Take care.